The committee of the whole meeting for Monday, January the 26th. It is 6 p.m. Please note that this meeting tonight will be recorded for people to be able to view online. And with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt the agenda. Before I do that, I just want to note that the closed session tonight will not be included in the agenda tonight. The participant could not make it. So with that, we have a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Councillor Glant, seconded by Councillor Thorne. Questions to the motion? Seeing no questions, the motion, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. With that, I'll remind councillors that if you have any conflicts of interest this evening, please get a form from the cabinet, fill it in and pass it into the clerk stating the reason why. With that, we're going to move on to new business, which is item 4.1, the Southeast Regional Service Commission, SCRSC Plan 360 public hearing on rezoning of PID 01052695 shopping carts. And with that, I'm going to read a statement first. So the next agenda for this public hearing for the proposed rezoning for PID 01052695 located on Homestead Road for a proposed shopping cart repair facility. Before we begin, I'd like to give our standard overview the public hearing process and how the public hearing will be conducted. So thank you very much for everyone coming out this evening. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider the written objections, comments received regarding the proposed changes to the town of Salisbury zoning bylaw and the future land use map. As I just alluded to, we have many in attendance this evening, and which we're really happy to see. When the provincial government undertook the local governance reform in 2023, the key part of the process was to provide local representation for those who lived in former local service districts known as LSDs. With this, the town is now responsible for zoning in the area, which was not in place before the province put in the rural plan, put it in place in late 2022, and now replaced with the town zoning bylaw. The process and the opportunity to have input garnered would not have happened to the same degree at the local level without the local governance reform. In terms of process, I'll now walk you through the steps of this public hearing. We will first have a short overview of any written prior submissions by Austin Henderson, the town chief administrative officer. Following this, we will have a presentation on the rezoning request from Guillaume Frances, one of the planners from the Southeast Regional Service Commission. We will then hear from any members of the public. The applicant will have the first opportunity should they choose to come to the podium. My understanding is that the applicant may also have online presenters who will be called if no one wishes to speak in person. Then we'll move to the members of the public who have registered to speak in the room. At the start of the meeting, a list was circulated by the town staff to have those who wish to speak add their names to the list. The list will be called by name and in order in which they appear on the list. The first list will be those who wish to speak in favor of the application. The second list will be those who wish to raise objections to the application. After this list, we will then move to those online. Those who are in attendance online received information on how we will call on you should you wish to speak. This will be for those in favor and objecting. We will not separate those lists online. Should you not wish to speak, simply do not unmute your microphone. We will pass it on to the next online attendee after asking you twice if you wish to speak. After going through the online attendees, we will return to the room in person. Anyone who did not add their names to the list but now wish to speak will be invited to do so. When coming to the podium, please state your name, since we will not have it on the sign-up sheet. For those online, if you have not yet spoken but then wish to appear prior to the conclusion of the public hearing, please send a message to the host and co-host, and we will go to the online speakers after the in-person additional presentations for presenters. Anyone who wishes to speak is limited to a presentation not to exceed 5 minutes. It is important to note that all presentations in person will be made at the podium right up here, and cannot be done from the gallery. So that's just a reminder that this is a public hearing and there is to be no speaking from the gallery or speaking out loud. Only people that come to the podium can speak. And that is something we do have to enforce as part of our bylaws around communities around the province. Because of this, we will ask the gallery to be respectful of the presenters and their comments at all stages of the process. We will not tolerate disruptions from the gallery to ensure that the public hearing can be conducted respectfully. Following the presentations of any proponents or objectors, the applicant will once again be provided the opportunity to address council and provide any further information and or clarity. Any comments being presented must be related specifically to the bylaw, and generally, an individual will have the opportunity to speak once. At the end of the presentation, the members of council may ask for clarification from the speaker on any fact or issue. But the purpose is not to enter into a debate. This is not the time to question the members of council. Under the Community Planning Act, the purpose of the public hearing is for council to consider objections to the bylaw, and therefore a discussion or argument involving members of council is inappropriate. As mentioned, there should be no interruptions while a person is making a presentation. Order must be maintained. When all presentations have been completed, the public hearing will close. After the public hearing is concluded, council has other items on the agenda for this evening. You may choose to stay or leave following the public hearing. Please note, and this is just really important for everyone, that the council is not making any decisions tonight at the public hearing this evening. The intent of the public hearing, as mentioned, is for council to hear support, concerns, and questions related to the proposed amendments. Council is expected to consider first and second reading of the proposed bylaw at the February 9th, 2026 council meeting. Should this pass, third reading would be considered by council at the March 9th, 2026 council meeting. Council thanks everyone for their interest and cooperation throughout this public hearing. The CAO will now give an overview of any submissions received by the town, then we'll turn it over to Mr. Francis for the presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before we start, I just, John Weave, I'm going to use you as a guinea pig. Can you just give us a thumbs up if you can still hear us? I know there's one online that cannot at least, but I know there's one that can. So
I have to repeat that all again?
No, I'm not making you do that. And okay, I was going to say, Chris, and I can see you on my screen as well. Okay, so I think we are good. We'll continue. So under the provisions of the Community Planning Act, council is required to undertake a public process when considering a bylaw amendment to rezone a parcel of land under the Town of Salisbury zoning bylaw. Tonight marks that public hearing, and prior to Guillaume providing a presentation on the application, I will provide the input that was received by the town and summarize it for council. The input in full is available in council's meeting package. We're holding this meeting by way of an in-person public hearing as advertised. However, given the inclement weather, the town has also facilitated virtual participation for those who wish to join remotely. On Friday, January 23rd, the town posted on social media that virtual participation was an option, with a reminder posted today on January 26th. On Sunday, so January 25th, an email was also sent directly to all those who had sent formal emails of objection received, obviously before yesterday, the 25th, advising that they too could also request a link to join remotely. All those who requested a link were sent the link this afternoon. The Community Planning Act requires public notification. It was provided by the following means as a way of summarizing it. Written notice was provided to properties within a 100-meter radius of the property seeking the bylaw amendments. Public notice was posted on the town's website advising of the intent to change the municipal plan on November 26, 2025. The public presentation was held during the regular council session of December 8, 2025. On December 11th, the town published the date, time, and location of the public hearing. Notices were posted on the Town of Salisbury's Facebook page on January 2nd and January 14th, 2026. Notices were included in the January 2026 and December 2025 monthly newsletters sent via email to subscribers, and features were included in the January 2026 edition of the Petitcodiac News and Views paper. In addition to the notice requirements under the Community Planning Act, as council knows, we also passed an enhanced notification policy in late or mid 2025, which also requires council, when considering a rezoning, to install a sign on the site. That was done prior to the holidays, and this is actually the first parcel or first application that the town has received since the implementation of the enhanced notification policy. On December 17th, the Southeast Regional Service Commission Planning Review and Adjustment Committee, or PRAC, heard the application to provide written views to council. The PRAC voted to recommend to Salisbury Town Council to approve of the proposed amendment as presented. The bylaws as presented include certain conditions that Guillaume will speak to throughout his presentation. As of 12:15 PM today, I think there might have been one other after that potentially. The town had 24 open case files on the proposed application. Of note, this does include written comments and social media that had a clear objection or support for the proposed amendments, despite not officially being considered written objections under the Act. Approximately 3 inquiries were made to the planner with Plan 360, which is PM was with us tonight, which are forwarded to the town. These are noted in council's package with summaries of the conversations that were had over the phone. 8 formal written objections were received in the form of letters or emails submitted to the town clerk. It includes 5 objections which were circulated to council today since the agenda package was originally published on Thursday. 2 of these objectors from those that had been received since the package was published had previously noted objections in the package, whether that be by phone, social media, or by conversation with Plan 360. The town also, as usual, received several phone inquiries on the general process, such as meeting date, time, locations, most of which led to formal objections or were related to existing case files or follow-ups to those case files. 1 formal written support was received today in addition to the other files in council's package that were primarily made on social media. The general summary of the concerns raised by those who expressed opposition to the proposed application are highlighted mainly with the 10 concerns that were raised and itemized in a petition that we will speak to. This included, I'll number them or list them. Incompatibility with RA or rural area zoning, impact on nature, traffic impact, environmental concerns and reliance on private wells, extending industrial zoning, noise impacts, impacts on nearby properties and property values, spot zoning, availability of alternate locations for the proposed use, and long-term land use considerations. Other considerations raised in the process related to the potential change of use included future changes once the parcel is zoned industrial if the rezoning proceeds, alleged future uses of surrounding parcels if the project proceeds that are not necessarily part of this application, and several comments specifically with respect to surrounding horse farms and horse farm operations. For those that specified reasons for support, which were online, it was mainly with respect to business development, job creation, and tax revenue. So as council knows, one of the files in the package was the receipt of a petition that was received by the town on January 16th with 45 signatories. On January 21st, we received additional signatures with the petition for a total of 75 signatories. The petition will be addressed based on the town's procedural bylaw. So we generally treat petitions in 3 ways. We circulate it to council, which was done on both of those days. We provide a formal response from town staff, which was done to the first group that submitted the petition or dropped off the petition. And then third, we added to the next regular council meeting for discussion. So that will be on February 9th. Obviously, where the petition or the topic of the petition is the rezoning that we're dealing with this evening, it's part of the official objections, but it will be in terms of our procedural bylaw on the agenda on February 9th, but it will not be debated on the 9th. It is just for a matter of public record based on the fact that that's how we address petitions in our procedural bylaw. So while our procedural bylaw addresses how we address it, it also triggers a section of the Community Planning Act. Section 113 of the Community Planning Act states that if at least 1/3 of the properties within a 100-meter radius of the applicant property, excluding the parcel of the applicant, object in writing, i.e. a petition, then a majority of members must vote in favor of the amendment in order for it to pass. So the 100-meter radius has 11 properties. Plan 360 was kind enough, thank you, to verify the signatures and confirm that the minimum of at least 4 are signatories on the petition, which means that section 113 of the Community Planning Act does apply. So for greater clarity, any decision of council requires a majority vote. The time that this would apply is in the event of either 1, not having everyone in attendance, or 2, having declared conflicts of interest under the Local Governance Act, of which to date there have been none on this particular application. So in that case, the majority is still required, even in the event of an absence and or a declared conflict, which is 4 favorable votes. And as the mayor mentioned, council is not expected to make a decision today. First and second reading of the proposed bylaws are expected to be in front of council on February 9th. And then if that passes, then it will be considered for third reading on March 9th. So the purpose of, as the mayor alluded to, the public hearing this evening is for council to hear any written or additional presentations of support or opposition. And after all of the presenters, council, based on our procedural bylaw, can ask questions of any of the presenters, so the planners, any of the objectors or those who are in support, and or the applicant. So with that, I will pass it over to Guylaine to give the presentation on the overview of the application.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. Next slide, please. So tonight's meeting is a public hearing for a request to rezone and change designation of a property to industrial. Next slide, please. This application was submitted by Card Connection Canada Inc., represented by Dave Freeland. The site is located on Homestead Road, just outside the former village boundary. The proposal is limited to a shopping cart repair and grocery maintenance facility. I use classified as light industrial within the zoning bylaw. Please. The approximately 2-acre property is identified as EID 01052695. It was previously occupied by a gas station until the late 80s and has remained vacant ever since. The site is located approximately 2.5 kilometers from Salisbury Highway industrial area and the Prairie Direction interchange, and about 500 meters from the Trans-Canada Highway as profiled. Next slide, please. The property is located within the Henry Tunnel landscape. Surrounding area include a mix of land use such as self-storage, RV dealership, former pits, residential home, agricultural land, and vacant food lots. As a former gas station, the site was reviewed by the province, which identified no known contamination concern. That being said, if a reasoning was to be approved, the province will be contacted again as part of the building permit process to provide further guidance to the applicant if required. Next slide, please. A site visit was conducted in October. The property is partially covered by woods, and the applicant intends to retain a part of the tree cover to provide buffering with neighboring property. Access to the site will be from the Homestead Road using the former driveway and parking area from the previous gas station. Next slide, please. This entry zone context is reflected in the zoning map. Neighboring zone include industrial, resource development, and rural. You can see on the purple industrial property that are occupied by self-storage and RV dealership. The subject property is currently zoned rural area. As a result, the project requires both a change of designation and a reason to industrial to apply for building permits. Next slide, please. The proposed development is to repair and clean shopping cart and provide general maintenance servicing for a grocery store, primarily building maintenance support. Most of the activity on site consists of storage, as many repairs are carried out directly at grocery store location. The applicant is seeking to establish their business in Salisbury and selected this location due to its proximity and ease of access from the Trans-Canada Highway. The facility would serve clients across Atlantic. The proposed building will include an administrative office, a 5,000 square foot work area for shopping cart repair and maintenance, and storage space for grocery store maintenance supply. Additional storage will be provided through shipping container located at the rear of the property. The business will operate with up to 5 company vehicles and employ up to 6 staff members. All required parking will be provided on site. The development will use the existing driveway from the former gas station and will retain existing natural buffer while adding a new landscape and building buffer along neighboring property. Slide, please. Here is a 3D view of the proposed work area. Next slide, please. This application was circulated to all relevant provincial departments, including environments, transportation, infrastructure, and agricultural. At this stage, no concerns were raised. If a reason was to be approved, a sole level of review will occur during the building permit process to ensure that all environmental regulations are met throughout the development of the property. Next slide, please. In addition, the provincial expert comments, the proposal was reviewed against the municipal plan. Plan encouraged industrial development to be constructed near the highway. It is also allowed for context-based rezoning and change of designation after the established industrial area for light industrial use only, which is the case here. Some sites can be difficult to developed due to their former location, and this section allow for redevelopment of brownfield, for instance, on a case-by-case scenario. In this case, the former property used as a gas station make it less appealing for residential or agricultural development, but appropriate for low impact light industrial use, such as this repair facility. These amendments intend to entertain single site specific project under strict condition related to the permitted use in order to not let any development take place on that site in the future. Next slide, please. Context-based reasoning is subject to section 4.6.5 of the municipal plan. The same logic used to define pre-established industrial zone is being applied here. The goal is to ensure that the property is large enough to accommodate an industrial use, including appropriate access, drainage, and suitable septic system. The plan also require adequate setback to maintain privacy and help the project blend into its surrounding landscape. The application includes fencing, tree planting, landscaping buffer to integrate the project into the rural surrounding. Water use is expected to be minimal and similar to a single family dwelling, as it would be mainly associated with cleaning, shopping cart, and basic employee need. The proposed access would be from the former gas station driveway, which has been deemed acceptable by the province. Next slide, please. The application was reviewed by the Planning Review and Adjustment Committee, and they recommended three conditions. So limiting the permitted use strictly to what was requested to council, to be consistent with the site-specific reasoning approach of the municipal plan. The second one would be requiring that the development occur in general conformity with the plan provided, supporting, and also the site-specific. So any unexpected extension would have to come in front of the council too. And finally, it's requiring opaque fences and maintenance of tree buffer on the site plan to support integration in the surrounding landscape. Next slide, please. In conclusion, the application proposed to rezone a vacant former gas station on Homestead Road from rural to industrial to allow light industrial use, specifically a shopping cart repair and grocery maintenance facility. The site is located near the Trans-Canada Highway and surrounded by a mix of use. The plan allows for site-specific reasoning, and in this context, the approach offers the possibility to develop a brownfield. That said, conditions are proposed to limit the use to what is presented today, requiring buffering and fencing, and ensure that development incur in general conformity with the submitted plan. Any change in the future use or scale would request a new reasoning with a new public process. If approved, subsequent step will include septic approval, drainage plan approval, compliance with national building code, and compliance with all applicable environmental regulation in coordination between municipal staff, provincial staff, and staff. Next slide, please. Please conclude my presentation. Thank you for your time.
I'm gonna look at the list and then get started with that. We'll start with, our procedural bylaw outlines how, the order that we go in. So, I believe that we have two on behalf of the applicant. We go to them first before going to those in the gallery. And then we'll join, those online. So I think it's Tammy and Dave, I think, are here on behalf of the applicants. If you would like, you can come to the podium, if you so choose. I don't know who Tammy and Dave.
Where are you?
Yeah, it's right there.
Dale.
Dale, oh, sorry. Tammy and Dale, sorry. Would either like to go to the podium?
You're okay for now.
Perfect, right, okay. There, I will get back to you and we'll go in the order that's on the list. I think actually, let me look, sorry. The first one is, there's no Lisa Pond in person, right? Lisa's online, I think, so we're gonna go to her after. Yeah, she's online. So Lisa, if you can hear me, I see you online. You were the first on the list, but since you're online, we'll get to you first on the list when we get to the folks online.
Okay. And again, just a reminder that I recognize that a lot of people are not used to getting up to a podium and speaking, and, we're all just friends, families, and neighbors, all from the same community, so, just feel comfortable, come on up. Just a reminder to council that at the end of each presenter, you will have the opportunity to ask for any clarification or questions, but we're not into the debate tonight, just, again, come on up and talk, and, we'd love to hear from you, so with that, I'll ask Byron, Pulsifer to come forward.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor,
Are you, sir?
councilors, friends and neighbors. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to address the public hearing on rezoning. Parcel's already been referenced. We're going to read some remarks that are part and parcel of our petition to, but it takes on a little different vein. And if it would be so kind, I would appreciate entering into the official record my remarks in written form and signed, if that's okay with.
I'll take it after, that's okay.
Take it after? Thank you, Austin.
I said that we didn't have a professional, they weren't comfortable coming from the podium, but I think we got a professional speaker up here, so I think we're okay.
I'm submitting this letter for inclusion, as I just mentioned. This submission is not an objection to economical or industrial developments in Salisbury. The town has already established appropriate and planned locations for industrial development through its strategic plan, municipal plan policies, and zoning bylaw framework. My concern is not whether growth should occur, but whether this rezoning aligns with Salisbury's own long-term planning structure. Salisbury's planning documents work together to guide industrial development toward designated areas, primarily concentrated near the Highway 2 corridor and the interchange. These locations were intentionally selected due to transportation access, infrastructure, capacity, and separation from rural uses, and that's residential use. Section 4 of the municipal plan provides policy direction on the plan, location, and organization of industrial lands. Salisbury's zoning bylaw implements the town's industrial land use policy through its official zoning map schedule and industrial zone regulations. Industrial zoning is assigned only to specific mapped areas, and PID 01052695 is currently designated rural under the zoning map. Together, these policies and regulation form Salisbury's long-term development framework. The rezoning request for this PID in question is located outside Salisbury designated industrial area and within a rural designation. Approving this request would introduce industrial zoning into a location that was not identified for this purpose in the town's planning framework. This application also represents something called spot zoning, where a single rural parcel is rezoned to industrial while surrounding properties remain designated rural. Spot zoning weakens planning consistency and undermines the integrity of Salisbury's land use structure. It creates uncertainty for residents and establishes a precedent that may lead to similar requests in other parts of the town. But it's not just Ward 3. It can be any councillor's ward sitting here tonight. It is also important to recognize that zoning decisions are permanent. Zoning applies to the land, not a single proposal or owner. Even if the current applicant appears limited in scope. The application appears limited in scope. Industrial zoning permits future expansion and additional uses. And I could read the list. I don't have to do that for you, councilors, because it's under section 9. And you can read it. I'm sure you probably know it by heart. This means the decision today will shape land use patterns in the area for years to come. As well, buffers are sometimes used to reduce perceived or minor conflicts in rezoning applications. However, they do not replace the need for proper location planning or adherence to municipal land use frameworks. While buffers may help with visual screening, they do not change the underlying zoning designation. Industrial zoning still permits a range of uses and activities over time, and mitigation measures cannot replace proper location planning. Salisbury's planning framework identifies where industrial development belongs. And the most effective protection is to keep industrial zoning within those designated areas. While this application is located within a single ward, the implications extend across Salisbury. Approving rules to industrial rezoning outside the designated industrial areas signals that zoning boundaries can be altered elsewhere in this community. This decision therefore affects every ward and the overall integrity of Salisbury's planning framework. For these reasons, I respectfully request that council uphold Salisbury's own strategic plan direction, its municipal plan policies, and zoning bylaw intent by maintaining the existing rural area designation and denying the rezoning application for PID 01052695. And thank you for the opportunity to submit these remarks.
Thank you very much, Byron. Very well cited. With that, councillors, you have an opportunity, any clarification, have any questions?
We'll do the questions at the end of all.
All of them?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's easier that way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to Catherine.
Good evening. Thank you,
Good evening.
Mayor, councillors, and neighbors for listening to us speak. I'm going to take a different tack than Byron took. I'm going to talk to you about our story. Byron and I chose Homestead Road to live on because we love land. We love the peacefulness that we have living in rural life. We value the quietness, just the overall beauty of the land. And for us, our land, it's not just a property, it's our home and where we planned our future. So back in 2011, Byron and I purchased the land. We built our home on it in 2020 and it zoned rural. Then as senior citizens now, it's funny how time moves on, eh? But as senior citizens in 2025, we invested and we built an accessory dwelling. So our family could live close to us and we can actually age in place. These were not short-term choices. They were life decisions. And we made those decisions based on the rural area that we live in. This proposal is right across the street from us. So all of a sudden, what we thought we had would be gone with industrial. Introducing the industrial zoning threatens the peace and the quietness. I never realized how noise traveled until I moved to this land. You could hear noise travel through the woods, and now we're gonna live right across the street from an industrial. We will hear the noise. The other concern that we have, it puts the future value of our home and our neighbors' homes at risk. It will have an impact. It creates uncertainties for families who invest here, believing that there's stability. It's already zoned rural, and now all of a sudden it's being changed. So it takes away from, you know, why buy a piece of land in this area when it could be rezoned? We're not asking for any special treatment. We're just simply asking that the rural designation be respected and maintained. So I thank you for listening to our story. And I would ask that council deny this request to rezone it. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. With that, Michelle Burke. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, thanks for listening to me speak. I run a 21, I have a boarding facility where I have 21 horses there. I have a tack shop where I sell Western apparel, riding equipment. My business doesn't interrupt anybody in the area, and like other people have mentioned, a shopping repair cart center just doesn't fit in our community at all. Homestead Road was a well sought after people all want to come buy property out our area. They want to live close to town. You can have, I'm from Ontario, and you can put your arm at my mom's house window and practically touch the house next door. Like, there is no more woods. There's no Winfield farms. It's all industrialized and commercial. Where else are we gonna go to build nice homes, horse farms? There's 3 horse farms on the Homestead Road. We use the trails in the back. I've got a C&D site behind me. And I know that the 2 acres, the gentleman who owns that also owns the C&D site that was sold to Leger Environmental, who is now owned by Dexter's. I don't know how it opened. He was shut down. It was being run illegally. I've had 3 underground fires. The last fire was set. I was worried about my woods catching on fire with my horse farm. And I know once this is rezoned industrial, the 2 acres, that's gonna open up his 100 acres in the back. So the dump is gonna get even bigger. Those are his plans and his intention. So I think it's horrible. That's my big concern. And then are you gonna change everyone's rezoning on the Homestead Road once you start spot zoning industrial places? Are our homes gonna be changed and rezoned in the future? That's the big question and a concern. And you can't have a horse farm in the city. You know, there's not a lot of things for kids to do now. Riding is teaches them responsibility. I don't know, why not have something that brings tourism to that way? There's a lot of land. You could have another subdivision for homes, build domes, put a golf course. There could be so many other things you could do than a shopping repair cart center. But thanks for listening to me.
Thank you. With that, I believe it's Luke Nelson.
Yeah, I'm all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going through the list
Okay, perfect, for in person.
in person.
Okay, yeah, we're going to, we'll go online to the online participants. So as you would have gotten in your email from Diane when she sent the link to the WebEx, your microphones were and still are automatically on mute. You won't be able to unmute until we call on you. So unlike in person, we won't go in order that you signed up. We're gonna go in the order that I see you on my list. So I apologize if you're one of the ones that are at the top of the list and don't want to be, but that's the order that we'll go in. If when you registered, you specified that you did not want to speak, I will not call on you. So you will have the chance to speak after as well when we come back to the room and see if anybody else would like to speak in case that did change. But If you did specify that you do not want to speak, then I will skip over you. And when we call on you, if we don't know whether or not you would like to speak, we will give you the option to unmute your mic. So it will not unmute the mic for you. You will still have to unmute, but you will have the permissions to do that. So on the bottom of the screen, you'll see a microphone option, and you'll be able to select that once we call on you. We'll call on you twice, so we'll say your name, unmute you, and then give you a second to find that button. We'll call on you one more time, and if we don't hear the audio, then we will go to the next person. And then, as mentioned, if you don't want to speak now, when we come back into the room and invite others to speak that may not have been on the list initially, we will do the same online after as well. So I'm going to start with Lisa, because Lisa Pond, she was at the start of our list. There, okay, Lisa, you should be able to unmute, and I do know that you are one that does want to speak, so I'll make sure that we can get your audio working.
Thank you. I would just like to say that I thank everybody that stood up at the meeting there this evening and done a great job in voicing my concerns as well. So no need for me to reiterate. Not sure if you watched the little YouTube video I attached to my email of the beautiful property that is tucked in the woods here that my husband and I built over a course of many years. I think it would be a great disservice to the entire community if you allowed industrialization after everyone's hard work and the reason for building the things that we have built here. And thank you to voice our opinions.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, the next on the list, I'm just gonna double check and make sure that they didn't specify. So the next on the list is Alex Kelly. So Alex, you should be able to unmute now if you wish. We'll give you a second and then repeat. Alex, one last chance if you want to speak this time, and then we'll go to the next.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can, you're good.
Okay, perfect. Like Lisa said earlier, everyone that's stood up so far, I think, has done a great job voicing a lot of the concerns that a lot of us share. I myself live just a few properties down on the Homestead Road. Have a young family that we're raising. My wife and myself both grew up in rural areas, and that's something that's very important to us. I'm also a business owner within the community of Salisbury and have been for 8 years now. So I do understand the importance of growth and development. But my biggest concern, like others have hit before, is not necessarily just this one single development. It's the approval of rezoning, which sets a precedent potentially for similar requests in the surrounding area. And my concern is just where the line is drawn. If one application is able to go through, what stops other applications going through in future years and continuing to use up vacant land that could be used for housing development or continue to be rural to serve the community in more of a residential way, preserving the land for the way it is right now. And like I said, I'll keep this brief. I just wanted to note my opposition and kind of reiterate some of the points that have already been made. So I appreciate you letting me speak, and thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Alex.
The next on the list online is, I'm gonna find it back here, Janet Kennedy. So Janet, you should have the option to unmute now, and same thing, we'll give you a second, and then if not, we will go to the next speaker.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can, yes, perfect.
I've only been here for a year. I bought the property, a very beautiful property next to Lisa. It was Lisa's house. I bought it because it's beautiful. There are lots of trees, neighbors. I would be really disappointed if the neighboring properties started to turn into light industrial. That's pretty much all I have to say. I really liked what the people who are in attendance had to say as well. So I am against the rezoning. Thank you.
Thanks, Janet.
Thank you, Janet. The next on the list online that we will go to, is Kimberly Germon. So Kimberly, you should be able to unmute now, and same thing, as with the last ones, we'll give you, a couple seconds and then repeat again. So Kimberly, once more, if you'd like to speak. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Kristen, you're next, if you'd like to. I know service might not be good, but I will give you the option just in case. If you would like to, you should have the option now to unmute.
Thanks, Austin. Yep. Sorry if the service is spotty. Like the others, I just want to say thank you very much for allowing us to speak, and then also for the other constituents for standing up and very eloquently laying out what the objections are. I think they did a fantastic job. I really have nothing more to add other than what they've already said.
Thanks, Kristen.
Okay, next up that is online is Marco Durpo. If you would like to speak, you should be able to now, and same thing, in case you're not sick of me hearing it, we'll wait a couple seconds and then give you another chance as well. Marco, one more time before we go to the next. Okay, next on the list is Vernon Belding. You should be able to unmute now if you would like to speak. One more time, Vernon, if you would like to speak. Okay, that's our online list. So if, for those that did not specifically say they did not want to speak, we have a couple more online that we'll have the opportunity to go back to afterwards. But for those that either specified they wanted to speak or specified or did not specify, I should say, that's the online list.
Okay, with that, we can still give the opportunity for people in the room, should anybody else wish to come forward to speak. If you do, you please raise your hand and we'll pass you the board to get you in there. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward to speak? Seeing no one, I'm going to ask council if they have any points of clarification or questions that they'd like to bring forward. I just have one point of clarification. It's more for an information for everyone here as well as online, that just for a point of clarity that the land that we're talking about, there's a couple of people that talked that indicated that, talking about history, talking about the town itself, up till 2021 was the village. So the strategic plan, everything that you see in place is talking a lot about the former village itself. The land use planning in 2021, the province put forward was called the Westmoreland Albert Rural Plan, which included a lot of the zoning that was introduced at that time. So a lot of the zoning in that area along the Homestead Road prior to did not exist. So the province actually were the ones that put in the Westmoreland Rural Plan at that point. So I just wanted to clarify that the town of Salisbury did not do that at that time. So I just wanted to put that as a point of clarity. And along with the rules, and I do encourage, and that's several of these zonings, I do encourage everyone in this room as well to familiarize yourself with the Westmoreland Rural Plan, which we can make available to you online. Because there are certain things that are out there that impact us all as residents. As we've talked about it, I heard people say about, we can put a lot of rural subdivisions or those type of things. You can, but the Westmoreland Rural Plan includes things like, yes, right along the Homestead Road, you can build houses. But if you start to go back in off the Homestead Road, you need to put a DTI spec road in, along with, you need 5 acres of land for a home. That's things that the province put in place as well. So I just wanted to, it's very important that we all understand this zoning that was put in place by the province. As we talked at the beginning of the meeting, not that rezoning is always a good thing because it impacts everyone. But the best part of what's happening right now when they amalgamated or did the reform, it allows us all to come together, talk about things as we go forward, because in essence, this council inherited a plan from the province that we now have to look at as a whole holistically for our entire community. We need to blend that in to the strategic plan that we have in place as well. But your feedback has been, very important, always important. It's always good to come forward respectfully and talk among friends, families, and neighbors. So with that, I want to thank you very much. You can ask questions, you can come forward and make a statement.
Okay, I'll come forward. Can I come forward?
You can, Kelly, I need your name, I'm gonna need your name on the clipboard.
Yeah, it's Kathy Holzberg.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Okay. Just at one point, I realize the amalgamation and how things have changed, but this plan, the strategic plan, the 2023-2026, which is Salisbury, am I right in understanding that?
Yeah, you are, this is the strategic plan, but the land use and the zoning that was in place was done prior to. So we have to adopt everything that's there.
Okay, so under your strategic plan, it says explore industrial development opportunities and leverage partnerships to spur commercial development near the Trans-Canada Highway. So I guess so my understanding when I read that would be that industrial and commercial would be in that order. Is that not
That
right?
strategic plan was put in place in 2023.
Right,
But again, that was talking about with the zoning we had in place at that time, not talking about, we had basically for the zoning that's in place in the LSD areas,
okay,
they were put into place, but we do have an area that's always been the long-term plan up in that area for sure.
okay,
But we still have to look at all land areas that we have, and we have to go through the whole process, which unfortunately will take years through 300, we went from 13 square kilometers to 330.
I appreciate that, yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a big thing, and we have to go through a long process. Unfortunately, with the province doing reform that they did, which, again, I applaud them for it in many ways. But with that, with the 13 communities in our area alone,
mhm,
to go through the process, because the former village already had a plan,
right,
and the LSD area, the province had a plan, we essentially went to the back of the list as far as the needs within the region to get into the funnel, to get changes made.
right,
Our ideal thing would have been to have these public consultations long before rezonings came forward, would have been very similar to the old village. And correct me if I'm wrong, the old village, we would have gone through our land use planning process. We would have had public consultations on all of the things, even on what we mentioned at the top of the hill. We talked about that along the highway.
right,
We would have talked about those type of things and done the public consultations way beforehand. Unfortunately, in this case, we received what the province already put in place. We didn't have the opportunity to do that. Just to give you an example on, as they put in the new plans by the top of the hill or the highway area, where things like the Giant Tiger,
right,
that would have fallen under the same plan.
right,
So that actually would have fallen under this Westmoreland Albert plan, even though it was where it was, because it did not fall in the old village.
right.
So that had to go through rezoning to be allowed.
Okay, yeah, because I looked on the Plan 360 map and it is showing industrial for that.
Yeah,
area.
because it had to go through a rezoning. That would have fallen under the rural plan as well.
Okay, so I just leave one comment and I go sit down. Strategically, and I appreciate it's a huge job with the rezoning, but strategically, if we start spot zoning in here, a little bit of industrial here, a little bit industrial there, I mean, there will never be, coherency within Salisbury. I mean, this is a growing community, and a thriving community, and we want to make sure that the areas, that there is designated areas for industrial, because we do want to promote growth. It's not that we're saying we don't want growth, we do want growth. So I would just strategically hope that this is taken into account, that you don't want, no matter what ward it's in, you don't want a little bit of industrial here and a little bit of industrial there. So with that, thank you.
Thank you very much.
There's one piece on clarity too, because it's in case all our long spiels at the start weren't super clear. The planning process is quite complicated and complex. So the Westmoreland Albert Rural Plan is now consolidated into the town's zoning bylaws and municipal plans. But we essentially could only choose the WARP elements or the former village zoning bylaws. So the Westmoreland Albert Rural Plan is now consolidated into the towns. But that does require, as any zoning bylaw would require applications on a one-off for any application like this. And there is verbiage, as Guilhem highlighted, in terms of light industrial uses on a one-off basis. And the mayor alluded to it as well, but this is, I would argue, part of, I don't want to speak for the province, but part of the province's rationale for local governance reform, because prior to the warp, there was no zoning in place in these areas. So now we have the opportunity to have what we're doing this evening under the Community Planning Act. So the warp is now the Town of Salisbury zoning bylaw, but it is a consolidation of that document. Councillor Dykstra, can you, I know you want to speak, but can you unmute, or is it still not letting you? It's not letting you. Okay, let me try to go do it.
Very good.
Try now.
Perfect, thank you. So to that point that the mayor was making, the industrial areas in the former village or in Ward 3 were put in place. There has been no strategy whatsoever in any of the rural areas, the former LSDs. None of that has been done. We have not had the time yet to put that work into place to identify areas for industrial use in the rural zones. So the question then becomes, should we undertake that work as to where industrial should be happening in the rural areas and where would be the best place to put it? In of itself, there's already industrial right across the road from this particular application. That's why they're all being done ad hoc, because we don't have a plan currently for industrial development in the rural areas. But at the moment, there is no other way to do it other than on one-off basis, just due to the fact that we don't have a strategy in place for the former LSDs.
Councillor Hall.
Sorry. So point of clarification for myself, because when was work put in place? It was in
November 2022.
2022, which is the reason the property was allowed to be a gas station prior to.
There was no
No,
zone.
there was no zoning, so prior to, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. There was no,
Correct,
all
yeah.
right, okay. It never previously zoned
Right.
light industrial, commercial. Okay.
I don't know, how did they do that on Trans-Canada? Because that was the Trans-Canada Highway, so there were businesses all along the Trans-Canada Highway. I don't know how that ruling was.
But there's still places, maybe not anymore, they might all be under zoning now, but that was part of the rationale for local governance reform too. There's some parts of the province that our area was ahead of most, like they at least started putting in the steps for a rural plan. There still was, and I think still is, but they'd be in the works of changing that, areas that don't have zoning regulations. So you could put a gas station and like there's no land use requirements. You need to go through the building permit process, and there's generally like a crack application depending on the use potentially, but there's a lot of places that don't have the same level of land use, which is part of municipal reform or local governance reform as well.
So, yeah, and so to Councillor Dykstra's point as well around, the strategic plan, unfortunately, in a good way, because again, because you're all here, as opposed to previously, this would have just happened without you having the ability to come forward and talk to anyone. And actually, prior to the amalgamation, there was a rezoning in another LSD area that took place that the residents had no opportunity to meet with local government because it did not exist, and it was very frustrating for them. So it is there, to Councillor Dykstra's point. From a strategic plan perspective, we simply, because of the way the process works, it is a long ongoing thing. There could be opportunities in different zoning in that 330 square kilometer area that may make sense. Can't say where that is right now because it's too big. It needs the proper diligence, it needs to be looked at. But unfortunately, on a daily basis, any landowner, yourselves included, have the opportunity, because it is your right as landowners, you have the opportunity to come forward on a rezoning. It doesn't matter about what we have in place from a strategic plan. We've had industrial requests for rezoning right in the middle of our downtown area in Salisbury. We've had that within the last several years. It does take place, it'll take place anywhere, because as landowners and your rights, your civic rights, they're there to be protected, right? That gives us still the ability to come forward to talk to us, right? So I just wanted to clarify that. And I really appreciate how well-spoken everyone is this evening, very respectful. I do see the councillor Bannister.
I do have a question, maybe just for clarification for myself and for the record. It pertains to a statement or a comment that you had made in regards to, you know, if this was to be passed, that the
C&D
the C&D would be basically taking over the back of that farmland.
It is mine already, and I don't even know how it happened. I bought my property 29 years ago.
Okay, so I don't want to get into like a big debate on it, whatever. Thank you for the comment. Thank you everyone as well for making this meeting, because it is important that you get out and you indicate, you know, your thoughts and your feelings about these rezonings. So my question is for you, and I would like you to clarify that this, whether that type of situation could actually happen.
So essentially, the plan gives a section that says that council consider light industrial rezoning outside established node for light industrial only. So, and it's really a case by case, so like the mayor say, it's going to be the owner that's going to come forward to request the rezoning directly.
So that's in relation to that PID that we're talking about, but her comment was in regards to the existing waste disposal facility that is behind her farm, that their concern is that it can move and it will consume that whole area behind them. So where or what are the regulations to protect them from this?
I think in this situation, I'm not really aware of the specifics, so I was more talking about the specific
Okay.
reasoning that's they would have probably.
But is it fair to say that if they have an existing property, that they can just continue to grow that, like, without having authorization, and without?
I can jump in on that one. So,
Okay.
the province has a number of regulatory components for properties of that nature, any landfill, construction demolition site. We've been made aware, of some concerns on the site and have had conversations with the province on specific items. And, they've been clear that they are operating as legislation requires. I can't speak to the specifics on public record, obviously, beyond that. And quite frankly, we don't regulate the licensing of them, so it would not be, I would say, it wouldn't do the process and the legislation justice for me to speak to it if I'm not familiar with it. But I do know that in those instances, they did confirm, that they were operating within their licensing process as legislated.
So if they wanted to grow that though, would they have to reapply? I guess that's what I want to understand from you.
The province has strict licensing requirements that isn't like a one and
Okay.
done. So if I'll use, because it's a municipal example, what was a former dump, now it would be a landfill, but the municipality owns that land. When that was decommissioned, there was a multi-year process for the province to say that is no longer a dump. We don't call them that anymore, but back then that's what
Right.
they were.
Yeah.
But it's a similar process when those are in existence now. There's strict environmental in particular requirements that must be followed. If they aren't being followed, we can certainly look into those on behalf of those that live nearby. I would say probably on the record, I can't speak to them. We wouldn't be able to bring them up, but we can definitely work with the province to do some follow-ups to see what the situation is. But in terms of expanding, it would depend, like this application is for this specific parcel and doesn't provide an option for expansion of any industrial. Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
it would have to come
You have
back.
to go out.
That's exactly what I'm.
And that's the beautiful part about the fact we
Okay.
did the reform with Westmore Albert plan, is it gives the ability for landowners.
So is that facility part of our town, or is it? Yes, it is. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Cole.
Another clarification, so I think just to make that a bit more concise from a processes perspective, excluding which property and which type of business. If a property PID is zoned light industrial or what have you that allows these types of things to take place. Prior to WARP being put in place, they would have been grandfathered in without any additional type of back type agreements and conditions, correct?
Exactly.
So then this next step, or to kind of clarify what Councilor Bannister was saying, is because of that, my assumption, unless it was after WARP, is that that happened prior to, if the property ID of that, of a specific business extends 100 acres, it's the property ID that is zoned. Is that correct?
They got grandfather in this case,
Right.
it's like he's.
So if it is a separate property ID that is not zoned for whatever the business is, that's a new application.
Exactly.
If it was grandfathered prior to 2022, when WARP was put in place, the entirety of the property ID that is zoned, and they can do with it whatever's within our zoning bylaw, correct?
This application would not give the rights of any property, whether it's that particular property or the neighbors on each side, the ability to expand their operations exclusively because this property is zoned. It's zoned industrial.
Without getting into context, I guess it just clarifies that the general process is, if it was before 2022 zoned, the whole property ID is zoned that. If it wasn't, there's a possibility that it's segmented, or that it would have to come back here. It's a different property ID than what's zoned a certain industry, but it has to 100% come back to us.
And if we simplify it, if council approves the rezoning, one of the conditions in the bylaws proposed is that it's limited to the site plan, to the intended use. Which means that, hypothetically, if the amendment passes and if this borders, we can use that example, or we can use any other industrial example, if they're just one side by side. This particular property is zoned with those conditions, which means that in order for any substantial change or change of use, this process would happen again. It's not any light industrial operation. It's light industrial with the conditions that are in the bylaw as proposed. So that's another important piece that is distinct.
Perfect, thank you.
Councilor Thorne, I think Councilor Thorne had.
Well, I think that actually answered my question in that the proposed conditions that PrAC has recommended for us, we're still able to tighten those up even further if we wanted to, right? And add more conditions before we finalize if the rezoning was gonna take place. So I think the conditions are great in saying that it has to be this, but we could tighten them up if we wanted to. Okay.
Which we've done before.
Yes, I just wanted to-
We've done that before.
yes, I just wanted to like clarify
Okay,
that.
thank you very much, Kim.
I think Councilor Dexter has another, I think you're unmuted.
Yeah.
Just a quick question in that vein. In terms of it would be used for something else, they'd have to come back again for a reevaluation of that proposal. But my question is more in the lines of, if this site, for one reason or another, is completed, this facility becomes in use, if it is in the future sold, either as continuing as a repair facility to another person, to another individual or company, and or they decide in the future to use that facility for something else, what triggers that to come back for further discussion in terms of rezoning or future use?
I can answer that, and then Plan 360 can jump in if they have anything to add, but that example will be no different than the example that was referenced by both the mayor and some in the audience. So there was a property that prior to zoning was allowed because there was no land use. As soon as the land use was in effect, the property changed hands. It was the exact same use, but needed to go through a rezoning process because it changed hands. And I shouldn't say the exact same use, the same principal use, but there were some slight changes, and that's because there were, it wouldn't meet the exact same use that was in place with the property before zoning. So that's one. And then the other piece is, if the property were to change hands, like any other property when it comes to zoning, if a complaint is submitted, Plan 360 would investigate on our behalf, essentially on behalf of the town. And if it's a if something does not conform, then a file's opened and there's a process to rectify that. That's no different than the process that would occur today if something like that were to happen. So even if the property changes hands, they would still be that it's the property, not the owners, that are bound by the zoning and the conditions that would be in place if it passes.
So they could be in violation if no one complains, yet if somebody complains, there will have to be investigation into that.
Correct. Yeah, correct. It's exact same as any other property now.
And to that effect of a complaint, where does the noise bylaw play into this particular site in terms of hours of use and after hours noise complaints for nearby residents?
It's a good question. The noise bylaw goes by hours of operation, and based on the information that we have, wouldn't trigger any issues there. That's something that we would generally look at from the town's perspective. And in Guillem's presentation, he mentioned that they also obviously come to the town for comment. We look at things like that. So bylaw compliance in terms of what's not regulated by Plan 360, things like sewer, if it's serviced there. So those are all things that we consider. So based on the application and the intended use, we don't foresee anything there. However, residents can also submit complaints, and we have had some in that area as well, where we've been able to work with the landowners to resolve. But it would be the same process there. So it's complaint driven as well. And we'd have to look into it to see if there was anything specific that met any, or didn't meet, I should say, any terms of that bylaw. I think then had something to, going to go back to the podium again. We're sorry.
You're interested in the.
They also to, if any reasoning that condition is approved by council, we also flag on Service New Brunswick this property saying that terms and condition was in place. Sorry.
Sure. So now we're triggered, like if there's a change in ownership.
Yeah.
Okay.
Permit applications probably too, yeah.
Yes.
We can, she can come back up. We can.
You can come back up.
We haven't gone online yet back to see, so yeah.
You have to come back up to the podium.
Sorry, but you did mention, Austin, that if there was a problem with the business, that you guys would look into it.
I think we should talk, I don't want to speak about it on the record, just because I'm not gonna be able to say anything.
Okay, hold on, hold on. If this is about not anything to do with the existing business that's applying for the rezoning, we're not talking about it tonight.
It is.
If it's not to do with the building and the changing of the zoning, we're not talking about it tonight. You can have a private conversation off the record about any problems that are being gone through with the province of New Brunswick on issues with the property.
Okay, if you could give me 2 minutes. I know it's regarding the business behind my property, but
Is it on?
Ministry of
PID?
Environment is
Is it
not
on a different PID?
maintaining it.
Is it on a different PID?
No, but I'm just pertaining to the new PID that you
No,
guys.
I understand, but if it's on a different PID, we cannot talk about it tonight.
But who will regulate that? Like if, okay, say the new business and the neighbors that are living near it and they have problems and protocols not being followed, hours of operation, banging, noise, who do they complain to?
If-
This PID.
For that, yeah, for that PID, that would be like Councillor Dykstra mentioned, so in terms of the noise bylaw, so there, to my end, there wouldn't be anything that would require provincial Department of Environment licensing for the proposed use.
This one.
Yeah, so in that case, when the business was operating, if there were things like noise, we have a noise bylaw that's in place that we can look at. There's a number of different basically things that are not permitted. But it generally goes by hours. So based on the overview of the operations, it wouldn't be something that would trigger that. However, very similar to going to the Department of Environment, if they had licensing in this case, which they don't, we would do it on a complaint basis. No different than if a residential property adjacent to
Who do we
you.
complain to? Who do we call?
For noise,
Yes.
the town office. Yeah,
Okay.
the town office. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And I apologize, unfortunately, we do have rules in our procedure bylaw we have to strictly stick to.
Okay, I'll send a letter.
Okay, I appreciate it. Anything additional? And I says, yeah, from the state your name.
Speaking about Edinburgh, speaking about the environment, this 2 acres has that been approved to, there was a gas station there. So has it been cleaned up? Is there any?
PTO, if you like to speak, Guillaume did speak to that in his, to his talk, he can go up and address that again. Thank you. Sorry, Ken, yeah, sorry, thank you.
So the applicant reached out to the province that no known contamination. In addition, there was the full letter enclosed on each report. And like mentioned during the presentation, follow-up will be made during the building permits to make sure that all environmental regulations are met throughout the development of the property.
So if there's nothing else in person, we haven't done online. So we'll double check online in case anyone who did not, speak and did not want to speak, would like to. So I'm gonna go through for those now and, you'll have the option to unmute your mic if you would like. Okay, actually, that would be good if you want to do that now. Like,
So we see the understanding,
Sorry, can you say your name again?
Luke Lawson. So I guess the understanding was that that gas station was owned from the gentleman. It was one PID that crossed the highway. And when he ran the business back in the eighties, you didn't need to list that gas station as an industrial facility. And once the highway, once he sold the house, that property was just as a rural. So you could have it, you could have a business on your property and didn't have to have this like you're running a commercial company. So that's when the gas issue was kind of like put away and there was no business anymore because the French gas highway came in.
Mhm.
So essentially, like there was they were hauling tanks out of there years ago, out of the old gas tank. So when you say that the ground's not contaminated, I don't know if there's, but there was open pits there and everything, by the time the government came in and they passed laws, but that was why it wasn't so the rural or industrial.
there would have been no zoning.
Back then, there was no.
Yeah, there
zoning.
was no zoning, he owned the property. The guy
Yeah, right along that whole stretch.
Okay.
There was no zone.
Okay,
Like, there's like people, I hate to use the word Wild West, but it was kind of like the Wild West. People could just put what they wanted to put in.
okay,
And that's why, as much as I'm not really a big proponent of amalgamations and bringing people together, this was one of the good things when government did come forward, was to kind of allow a reexamination.
and another thing is too, a lot of traffic too, there's cars that fly up that highway and when you take that turn, it's right on, you're coming hot into that blind turn at 100, like cars are going up that highway fast, and it's right there. So if like a truck pulls in on the side, like that big truck just doesn't know where he's going, then you get this lady or man, whoever's driving, like, they don't expect a big truck sitting in the middle of the highway.
No, thank you.
But that
Appreciate
same argument could be applied to any residential there, so.
it. Yeah, but we're not gonna get into it. We're not gonna get into any debates tonight. Any counselors, if you have points later when on the 9th, when we come forward, we can make your points of clarification then, but tonight's not about debate. Very good points brought up by, everybody from the public, really appreciate. First of all, I want to make a comment on the record. It's not the most beautiful night out. But for you guys to make the time to come out, it's very appreciated. And I did mention earlier about, going online to look at some of the things. It's really important, as much as we say about government. That was one of the good things that the province did. There was 30% of the province that didn't have representation when they did these things. You now have representation. You may not like everything we always do, but on that, you do have somebody to talk to on a daily basis. You can reach out to. You can email us, call us. We're certainly available for that. But I do know that one of the last rezonings we had, I remember, unfortunately, he's retired. One of our counselors, he was very adamant on, it's your responsibilities as residents, the same as I'm a resident of this community too, to know what's going on. So part of that is to go to our town website. We've got a newsletter that's available in the town that we'll certainly email to you so that you're informed of all the things that go on. But we never want anybody to be surprised by something that may be coming up that you didn't know about. So, we're all friends, neighbors. We all see each other at the Lions Club breakfast and all the different things. So we're all in this together. So thank you very much for coming out.
I just want to make sure that nobody online that had the option.
I was just going slow for you, really good.
So I don't see any that are unmuting themselves, and the other thing that we should do is, if the applicant wants to, then that's awesome.
And again, we are playing around with technology. It's not always the easiest thing, but we're doing our best. And with that, as always, at the end of these,
One quick thing, as counselors, we don't always get to have respectful discourse, so everybody that was here and everybody that spoke online, we greatly appreciate respectful discourse and the way that you came tonight, so thank you.
Very much so. With that, the applicant does have the opportunity to speak should they so choose.
My name's Dale St. Louis. I work for Car Connection, RGC. Let me briefly describe what the business is about, as people seem to think it's about banging, clashing shopping carts, but it's not. We presently work out of my house, but it's not huge. And it's just the problem that is we are expanding. I'm not a great speaker, so I may ramble on about certain things or this and that, but I have a smaller property, less than 1 acre, and we just happen to be that we can't put the vehicles there no more. We can't have this, we can't have that. We're a small business, we're not huge. Money plays a big factor of what you can purchase and what you can afford, how far you can go, and you have to meet criterias and certain things. So this fell within our bracket of our expenses. And basically, this is how it works. This is an average day. Guys show up either 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. They load their vehicle, they're gone for the whole week. They're not back until there's nothing else going on that property except for administration work inside an office. They do all work on site at stores, not in the building. It is a storage basic facility. That's what it's all about. I understand people have concerns about trucks going in there and stuff like that, but we own vans, we don't own trucks. And things like that. That answers some of your questions. I'm not saying it's not a speedy path or anybody could have damage there or anything like that. To the property or anything. But our vehicles are not meant for that. But that can happen whether it's residential or whether it's commercial. It wouldn't matter whether it's who lives there, it can still happen. People speeding and stuff. We're not dealing with chemicals, we're not dealing with shopping carts all laying around or carts laying around, stuff like this. We are following strict rules of whatever's put in place for us, and we will abide by them. When it comes to making the place buffer zones and stuff like this, we follow every rule as well as what's laid out by 360 or what's laid out by the village. We're not there to cause issues. We understand about the zoning things, you know, once it's zoned, is it gonna continue that? But let everybody think of this one thing. Would you buy a property that a gas station was on? Probably not. The odds are residential will never go that spot. And I'm not sure on this part, so I'm just gonna speculate on it, that if it wasn't a steel building that we were putting on that site, we could erect a great big garage there without any issue whatsoever. And just store things in it and continue like we are. But because it's a steel building, now we have to go over to industrial. That's to my understanding. I could be wrong.
It's the use that triggers the designation. So even if you were to put a garage, if the use was in a garage versus steel building, it would still require.
It was,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Clear as
If it was for personal use, it wouldn't.
That's correct.
If it was for personal use, you were storing, it wouldn't, but as soon as it becomes.
So if you're building a new house with a big garage.
If I had the land and I built the garage, we'd probably do it right on my property. We have buildings on my property now that are just portables that we move, and eventually will be left there to my own personal use and everything taken to wherever we decide to land as our home, our company. We're not a wealthy company. We're starting out just like anybody else. Like I said, money happens to be a big issue, and this is what fell within our price range. I understand that nobody would really want industrial up in their area, but you take it, there's a storage facility not far from where we are, we're applying for, within, I'm gonna guess 500 meters for sure, as well as an RV place that must be making racket too. This is just guessing, you know, I have no valid facts in regards to that, but there is industrial already in that area, fairly close. That is basically what I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, I'm gonna read a closing statement. I'd like to thank everyone for your participation, and as mentioned, council is not making any decisions on this matter this evening. First and second reading of the proposed amendments will be on the agenda for our regular council meeting scheduled February the 9th at 7 p.m. At that time, council will determine if they proceed, if they have further questions, or if the amendment will not proceed. So really that night we'll have further discussions and a vote on that. With that, I now declare the public hearing complete. We're gonna now move on to our next order of business, on this evening's agenda. Should anyone in the gallery wish to leave, they can certainly do so. If you'd like to stick around and learn more about what we do, that would be great. With that, I believe one of our councilors would like to go to.
I'd like to move to a recess, yeah.
Second by Councilor Thorne, second by
Second
Councilor Wyatt. Questions from the
Some of them.
favor? Aye. We have a motion to enter back into council session. By Councilor Cole, second by Councilor Thorne. Questions to the motion? All in favor? Aye. We're now back into the regular session. With that, we'll move on to item 4.2, Southeast Regional Service Commission. Southeast Regional Service Commission Plan 360, introduction conveners.
So I guess nobody was here to, listen to your presentation.
Yes.
Are you gonna share her presentation?
I can, yeah. You're ready to go?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can continue.
And I banged the gavel so hard because I know that you guys have to get on the road and I care about your safety and it is not nice.
There. Thank you very much. So, yeah, I'm here to do the introduction and preliminary presentation for a post-text amendment to permit shipping containers to be used as temporary / seasonal vending facilities in the community use zone. So the two sections I've included up here next to that is 3.10 vehicles and vehicle bodies and 3.11 temporary construction uses and seasonal vending facilities. As those would be the two sections that would be impacted with this text amendment. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, those two sections are the ones that provide regulations around vehicle bodies, which is 3.10, and seasonal vending facilities under 3.11. Under the current zoning bylaw, a shipping container, it cannot be used as a temporary / seasonal vending facility. And additionally, these facilities are only permitted in commercial zone, so it would not be permitted in the community use zone. This proposed text amendment would intend to permit both shipping containers to be used as well as have it be in the community use zone. This would expand the zones where these types of facilities are permitted and would also include increasing regulations surrounding them to accommodate that. So as I'm sure you are all aware, Fox in the Park pilot project did happen just this past year, which saw Fox in the Park operate first in Highland Park under a lease agreement, as well as having to get a temporary use approval. And the town has been engaging residents about the future of Highland Park, including Fox in the Park. So a text amendment would be necessary should the town be interested in accommodating this type of structure and use to facilitate Fox in the Park or other similar projects on a reoccurring basis. Next slide, please. So in line with this, there would be multiple aspects to this proposed text amendment, and these changes could include adding a notwithstanding to section 3.10 to permit shipping containers in alignment with the temporary / seasonal vending facilities section, adding the community use zone. This could include setting dates to outline seasonal operations, as well as adding additional conditions to the seasonal / temporary vending facilities, such as having been removed, only permitting ready-made food and beverages, specifically stating that alcohol can be sold, getting an approval or license from the town, being accessory to a main use, therefore it couldn't be the only use on the lot or the main one. Patrons not being permitted within that temporary vending facility, and shipping containers not exceeding 58.06 square meters, which is the size for accessory buildings. Next slide, please. So I do apologize for how text heavy this is. Unfortunately, with text amendments, I don't get very many opportunities for pictures. So the community use zone is the area that's designated the zoning for Highland Park, and that does not have a specific designation, so there are designations such as the open space and conservation zone, which specifically has the open space and conservation zone under that designation. But that designation could also include other properties that are not zoned that way, such as community use. So to encompass all of the possible zones designations that could be involved in temporary / seasonal vending facilities, I've taken out some policies that are in the residential, like the residential designation, such as having community use be compatible in the open space and conservation designation due to properties such as Highland Park that are zoned community use. So just to clarify, this would not open up the possibility for any uses in the open space and conservation zone. It is just, I've included this designation because Highland Park is designated that way, but it is zoned community use. So that one does have policies around having the public and private sector promote the areas, educational and tourism designation, policies around town center, with strengthening the town center and having a mix of uses, and then commercial, which tends to focus on highway commercial with policies around having a traveling and diverse clientele. The next slide, please. So with all of that, council, as this is just the introduction preliminary, the next steps would the Council of Salisbury would be able to choose to pass a resolution to start this sort of public engagement if you wish to consider the text amendment, or if you do not wish to entertain, the resolution may be denied, and this would be your next regular council in February. Thank you.
So with that, there's a resolution or a recommendation on the floor, and then some questions for Jenna or for us, if there are any.
I move that council direct Plan 360 staff to proceed with initiating the text amendment process to permit shipping containers as temporary vending facilities and direct town staff to begin formalizing a temporary vending facility bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Bannister, second by Councillor Thorne. Questions?
I was ready to read it and our cat died.
I was wondering, all of a sudden you just went, closed it. I thought you were gonna, any no questions?
I'm really excited about this. I think you can probably tell, but
I can't see John, but
he seems fine.
pretty calm there, John. All right. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried. Okay. Have your direction on that, so we'll now move on to item 4.3, drive safe.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Moving on to item 4.3, rural
Thank you,
Canada action plan consultation. Yes, thanks, Tori.
Basically, as a summary, of the next item in the agenda, the government of Canada is releasing or has released a consultation process for an action plan for rural Canada. So part of that included outreach with stakeholders such as municipalities. In consultation with the mayor, we've proposed submitting something to the federal government as part of these consultations. We've highlighted a number of different recommendations that are included in the memo. We'll put these into a letter format and include any additions or remove any that council may wish to add or remove and have it submitted by the February 6th deadline. Essentially the premise of the components that we're proposing are based off of FCM's recent advocacy paper for rural municipalities specifically, and then there's a couple of other Salisbury specific components, basically the rural top up for infrastructure funding and the infamous cellular reception. So with that, there's a recommendation on the floor, and then we can answer any questions and dive into some of the additions or removals if council so chooses.
I'll move that council direct administration to prepare a submission to the Rural Development Action Plan consultation process, highlighting the proposed priorities as presented.
Second. Moved by Deputy Mayor Obledas, seconded by Councillor Bannister. I thought you were going to share your screen with Councillor Colwell Sheaves, if you wanted to read it. With that question,
Are we able to tie in our application for like the water system to try to get more than 33%?
The application for water does have more than 33, yeah, it already does, because that's under a housing funding
So
stream.
more than 30.
Well, it doesn't have to like push them.
To put, yeah, we could use that as an example, actually, we didn't, so that's a good one to add in, yeah, that's a good one to add in.
Allison, did you send the link for that survey? For questionnaire? For rural?
No, we'll submit it in letter format to
Okay.
their email probably,
Yeah.
but we can put it in the WAG.
Yeah.
Because people can submit it as an individual too, so we
Yes,
can do it. that way.
exactly.
Yep.
And it can be sent out to other,
Yeah.
Set up, yeah.
yeah.
We will add that to the WAG this week.
Thank you.
No additional questions, Sean's still very comfortable? Okay. Oh, he has his hand up.
Oh,
I thought
sorry, I
he
didn't
was
see
waving, I thought you were just waving, hi, John.
I do bigger.
Yeah, we can make them bigger now.
Okay, go ahead, John.
No,
he's not allowed.
You gotta unmute. You will let talk.
It's
This is kinda nice.
unverified.
This is kinda nice, don't we?
You can't talk, you're unverified.
Rejected.
I know, can we get one of these buttons for the council members? Nylander for the Maple Leafs got in trouble with that.
You're more than welcome to make the motion.
If we weren't on video, we would all moon you right now.
We are being recorded right now, I'm going to remind everyone. Snowstorms bring up.
Yes, very much so. So this is just a consultation for looking for ideas, or was there any specific thing they're trying to go for with this?
It's, so they in 2018 or 2019, I think, did basically a strategy for rural Canada, and this is basically developing an updated action plan for that. So they're looking for input from various stakeholders, not just municipalities, but municipalities and local governments, I guess specifically, are one of them. So what will come out of it will basically be an action plan. FCM submitted their priorities at a national level, but when these things come up, we try to submit our own to echo those and add a little bit of our own pieces to it as well.
So this is just basically what the town wants so far. That's just the list you have. You're looking for anything else in particular?
If you have other things, we will add them. Yeah, we created that based on FCM's advocacy paper that was released last year, and tried to add some specific components that we've seen in terms of things that are under the federal government's purview, basically.
Again, any infrastructure that leads to investment in rural Canada, rural New Brunswick, rural to the town of Salisbury, any of those rural needs in terms of fishery, forestry, mining, like any of those infrastructure needs, all of them for economic development in rural areas, the main primary industry of all sorts. Absolutely, all of it, every bit of it, because we need more work.
I expected that to be the first thing out of your mouth.
And yeah, we touched more on like infrastructure for us, but we can add those just collectively in terms of on a community level. And to Councillor Bannister's point, we'll make sure that you get the links because you'll probably have your own thoughts to submit to.
No, that's important. I think.
I already submitted.
John's point is it is very good, John, that we do have to key in on those things.
Yeah.
For sure, because we are.
But even the rail, the port, but the rail service, the ports, all of those things all lead to the primary industries being able to supply any exports into the future. We need that investment to further develop any of the infrastructure and any of the needs that we have going forward into the future. And if we're going to become less reliant on current trading partners into the future, we're going to need a lot of that investment going forward.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any additional? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. John?
Aye.
Left reminded? Motion carried. With that, we'll move on to item 4.4, Union Municipality of New Brunswick, UMNB 2026 orientation planning.
So this is almost threefold. UMNB issued a memo just before the holidays requesting information from councils on input on orientation. Basically, they gave 3 different questions that essentially guide that can guide the input. The province has since come out with a survey as well, which is included in the memo. And we would encourage all of you to submit as an individual counselor as well. So we're tying it in together. And then anything that doesn't fit one of those 2 from a provincial level, the town will consider as part of our orientation for an incoming council in May. So the intent is just to help inform those processes. We'll submit something if council has any input. We'll submit that to you maybe before the end of the month. And then the provincial survey is up to you specifically. And then anything, like I said, that doesn't fit those 2, we'll try to catch as part of our orientation planning. So there's no recommendation on this one. It's more of a discussion for any direction. So if council has any.
Even a YouTube video would be nice.
They did. I don't know if they made those recordings available after their sessions.
They did, and they're online.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah.
Then maybe a link.
If you guys do think of any ideas, I am with UMB. I'm the vice president. We're doing consultation with around this right now. So if you do have any items, bring forward, because I think we've all, and we've been through the ringer a little bit, know what to expect, but as new people do come on, let's face it, what you guys went through could have been improved. That's not anything wrong with what happened, just that we came into a world that was a little bit different with amalgamation and everything that's happening. So with that, knowing what you know, what can you tell people about, or what should they know to expect? I think I want to give kudos to this council in that we've had very much, from a collaboration perspective, not had some of the issues that other councils have had. I think that comes from, first of all, a lot of you, well, all of you actually all have, careers where you do read, you do go through material, you do come prepared. And in many cases, many of the other councils maybe didn't come to the forefront with that. I think, it'll be important if anybody new's come forward, they are properly trained and know what to expect.
And the province,
Having a staff that prepares us is really helpful too.
the province used to leave people in the.
Yes.
I won't even do that.
No,
They didn't give much resources.
They didn't get much resources. It's gotten better. I'll give them credit, but again, we've all been through it. What were the gotchas that could help? Yes.
Yeah, I think, so a couple of things that I would bring up would be to have a network of like SMEs or contacts for certain types of things that you could go on to UMND and be like, who's had, rezoning.
Yeah.
Or who's declined, or who's what have you, or who's had, anyway. Well, there's lots of things, but just having a town or a city or a specific CAO or a person that you can contact. Right, and the other thing would be, for me, would be more like conflict resolution and personality driven, constructive conversation training, things like just those little things that
That code of conduct, conflict
make
resolution.
people not continue
Yeah.
with these critical goals that we're doing.
Mentor roles was something
Right.
that was taught. Mentor role.
Yeah.
I think I know myself, even when I first came in as mayor, as an example, you come in as mayor and it was very much going to the service commission, going to that table with the 13 or 12 other mayors at the time. But having that support mechanism of just having the side conversations, even the councillors have had that ability to have the all council sessions and meeting other UMB's conference is a good example of how you can network and do that type of thing. So just keep it in mind if you think of anything, that this is a good opportunity to improve on what's been done in the past.
Yeah.
I think too, like the psychological toll that being a counselor or a public figure has on a person too, like to detach yourself from the comments on Facebook. And if your name's in the newspaper or you hear your name being talked about in the grocery store when you're an aisle over, right? Yeah, just be, thanks. But just like, I know that I've grown in this role, like I've learned how local government actually works, the differences between provincial, federal and municipal responsibilities. But then as a person to not take the comments of the residents personally. And,
We have to vote on this, do we?
No, there's no, we'll put something in the UNRD to Dan and, yeah. The staff have one of those, that's helpful, like,
Like this, like we always had.
yeah, we go, like, you just send it, some people need to learn what reply all is, stuff. Other than that, it is helpful, so like, people can go out and say, we wanna do X, Y, Z, like, with something like this, and then someone will go and, like, we'll say what it is, it can be helpful, so.
Okay, thank you very much.
Council is also interested, as they also say, in every reply all to that, yes.
With that, we'll move on to item 4.5, Regional Service Commission verbal update from me. Just a quick one, the Service Commission did have a strategic planning workshop for not-for-profits. It was planned for Salisbury tomorrow. Several of the lower 40s people that were coming to the area for that. Because of the inclement weather, a lot of people traveling, it's been moved to next Monday. But that is a good workshop. There's been several run in our community. It brings people from Shediac and different areas. So thanks to the Service Commission for bringing that to Salisbury. Eco 360 recently had their Eco 360 and Eco Evo here in the community. And again, I got some good feedback on that. And we did talk previously, the regional tourism map is online and accessible online. Something if you're talking to local businesses that they could put events online and different things if there's happening. I'd like to see more Salisbury stuff on there. There is a few things on there. I'd like to see more and more on there as we go forward. So socializing that, I think in our newsletter and things will be important. Obviously, we're just coming out of the Christmas break. We have a board meeting tomorrow night. We'll have some presentations on the tourism opportunity development analysis. Tourism strategy, which I'll provide you guys a copy of the presentation, as well as overcoming poverty together. Another presentation by Helen T-Bear and Stephanie Leclerc, so I'll provide that to you afterwards. But yeah, that's what's going on right now. And that's pretty well.
May I ask, the not-for-profit, is it a workshop or is
Yeah,
it?
it's a full day workshop. So it's a full day workshop and they'll go through, I can send you the information because they can probably get some changes where it's.
Did they reach out to our community for inviting?
Yeah, there's they did.
This is the one that was full, I think.
It's full. They did an online post. Yeah, they have a distribution, they have a newsletter, and then they did a post in the, like all the different social media outlets.
I know, it's just usually not for.
Service Commission?
What's that?
Is this the
Yeah.
one through the Service
Yeah.
Commission? Yeah.
Yeah, I can, like, I'm not, it's not fair for me to name names, but I know
that's fair.
4 different not-for-profits from our area that have gone into it.
We can reach out to their community development crew, see if there's room to.
Yeah, and it might be a good feedback to like send it to the municipality, to send to the not-for-profits.
They do, honestly, they do, yeah, sometimes we put them in our newsletter, but sometimes they don't, it depends on what they are, what is the one that's running?
It's a strategic planning.
Strategic planning,
For non-for-profits.
yeah, they just did a grant one.
They did a grant writing one here.
Or something?
Yeah.
It did, probably was West Bay, but it was full.
Yeah.
And it had probably of the 40-some people, half of it was from Salisbury, Petitcodiac.
But
And that
there's
was
another one going on, if this one's full. There's another.
There's a few, yeah.
There's a few, yeah, and they'll run them in 3 or 4 different
Yeah.
areas. And
They do a virtual one too.
They do a
where you
virtual
can
one.
put more people.
That one was
Yeah.
full, right away.
They,
Yeah.
they're good.
Yeah.
Like, for the most part, they're good. They
Do
fill
we
up
have a
quickly.
list of not-for-profits in the community?
They have a lot of them, so they've been maintaining, we do, but they would have probably even more than us, honestly, that would reach, so, but they got their initial list from us in 23, like when they started that. So I'll double check and see if,
They
like,
did
those
a,
groups are
they
on.
did a social media,
No, I'm just saying for the community,
social media training was in Petitcodiac, a few years ago as well.
like a service, we're talking about service
Mhm.
level offers and things, right? Like, if we can maintain some sort of a list of our own not-for-profits.
We do
for our
have,
community,
yeah.
And share them, not in a newsletter,
Yeah.
but specifically
Yeah.
sharing, just, this is all really great stuff.
Mhm.
For,
For sure.
especially not-for-profits are generally run by people that, from my experience, because I've been in them, that care a lot and don't have the business necessarily background to be able to properly do the grants and things, right? That's why not-for-profits exist, because people love helping. So, anyway, it's just it. Done.
And I'll double check and see if there's space, and maybe we can check.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
I have 2 things.
Okay.
Are we at comments right now?
We're gonna, we're not yet. All right, so we have nothing in closed this evening.
Right.
With that, now we'll move on to mayor and councillor statements. I have nothing to state. Now we'll move on to Councillor Bannister. Now we're ready for it.
Two things. Is anyone other than me getting calls on garbage collection and tax bills?
No.
Okay.
So I have.
Must be because I'm in the junkyard capital of the town of
I
Salisbury.
have gotten on tax bills, but I've not been on tax bills, I've been on assessments. And
Yeah.
I've clarified to them on assessments that your home assessment is not what you're being taxed, your tax. There's differences. Your house could have a higher assessment, but your taxable rate is going to stay the same. as
Right.
It was last year.
So I've had several calls on, let's talk about the garbage first. So we've had several residents who the Miller Waste organization is not picking up bags. And they've gotten to the point where they were not picking up bags and not putting on the bag why they weren't picking it up. So, my husband actually championed this for me. And he reached out to Miller and he left a message and, no one got back to him. So 2 weeks later, when it wasn't picked up again, he reached out to Miller again and immediately, basically the guy was in our driveway. Supervisor, he inspected all of the bags and he said that there was absolutely no reason why that should not have been picked up. So he, through this, this has been going on since before Christmas. And this is all like, if you guys haven't been getting any complaints, what's been happening in Riverglade are people are starting to just burn barrels in the back of their yards because their garbage is not being picked up. So that's not a good thing.
I guess my question to the office is, have you heard about it?
I'm
Yes,
looking right now.
I was gonna say, we do get calls because of the changeover, it's different people, it's a different day, the whole change in garbage, we do get the odd call asking, garbage pickup when it was, whether it was blue or clear, how come it's not getting picked up? Anybody that we have, of course, it is not coming to us anymore,
Right.
it goes to like 360. Eco 360, so Eco 360 gets the call, we usually take record that we received one, just so that we have them marked down. We've had people who have called and when they call, they get a video of the garbage pickup. So the guys in the trucks are actually videoing as they pick up, so they know what, sometimes it's the garbage wasn't there, sometimes they've literally just missed it. There's been roads they've missed, but again, new people kind of letting it work itself out. Other than that, that's all I can think of that we received is just.
So what it appears to be in my area is they're just not taking the bags that they should be.
But they should be calling.
So I think there's a few, I would say we've got about a handful, there's about 5, it looks like, if I exclude the ones that are about the collection schedule.
Yeah.
So, a couple things, one is they have increased, looking at non-compliant bags, but there should be a sticker. So if they're non-compliant, there should be a sticker, that was the first question, but
Yeah.
if it's not a sake of not being non-compliant, then, we have to tell Eco 360, so, technically Miller doesn't have to respond, because we contract Eco 360, so, and then Eco 360 has the contract with Miller, so to Diane's point, they do have cameras, which have been helpful, because the time, we heard a lot about, well, they didn't pick up my garbage and it was out, and then the cameras say, they went by at 6 a.m. and.
This is not about garbage not being picked up, this is about bags not being taken out of the garbage can
Okay,
that should be.
yeah,
So the supervisor at Miller Waste actually got back to us and they were reprimanded, like the guy went through the garbage.
Yeah.
And there was no reason why it should not have been picked up.
And so
We've been going through this since before Christmas.
my
No,
recommendation,
personally, I'm saying we've been going through this before Christmas, but we have a lot of houses in our area that this has been happening to.
and my recommendation, we have to go to the Eco 360, because going to Miller is not going.
but also, is it blue, or is it both, is it blue bags, white bags, or both?
Both,
Both.
yeah.
Can we
So-
do
And you know what
Miller's complaints in our area? Can we ask them for some stewardship on?
We would have, we would have ours, they have the Miller does not have any obligation to track. There is pieces in the contract for Eco 360.
Right, like if we ask them
Yeah.
for our, it's like no different than the RCMP, we're paying
Yeah.
for service.
Yeah,
Can you give us our complaints in our area and what they are?
Yeah, because people could be like, you know, same as Darren, just calling Miller
Right,
directly.
'cause they see the-
They want to fix the problem, like,
That's-
Miller wants to fix the problem because they don't wanna lose the contract from Plan three
That's the
sixty.
thing, we're gonna have to put reminders.
Or
that-
Eco
Send a
360.
newsletter online that they've got to contact Eco 360, not Miller.
Well, I think, yes, so that was my point, like, can we get some information out there that, you know, it's important, well, number one, it's important, we pay for the service that the garbage is picked up. Number two, you know, we don't want people putting burn barrels in their backyard because their garbage isn't, it's very frustrating. Like,
You can't fix something if you don't know what's broken, right?
well,
If
exactly,
the garbage isn't being picked up because
Yeah.
it's non-compliant, we need to know that it's not.
Yeah,
compliant.
I'm very interested in.
Do you receive the list from Eco 360, of the non-compliant bags every Blue Week?
no,
Yeah.
they haven't done a lot of patrols here yet, so my understanding is they're focusing on some areas that are a little
Like
bit
Ripley.
worse, than others, that's why I asked if they were blue bags or not, and then they also
blue and
did
green,
green, okay, so it's blue and green, no,
blue and green.
okay.
But are they,
I think what all
We
this to
don't-
say, they're doing increased patrols for blue bags and green bags, to ensure compliance,
Yeah,
but,
they take clear bags, they take every clear bag that people put out there.
okay.
We're
We need to-
trying to be compliant
We'll
and,
need to talk to Eco 360 to see, and try to get more, of an update on that. We'll also share with council the, like the numbers that we can call. And the other piece that we'll do is we'll take some of Eco 360's content on the sorting and then the contacts too, and put that in the newsletter. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
okay, that's great.
Yeah,
Um,
on that one, that's mine.
so the other thing that I've been being bombarded with are the tax assessments. Because, you know, everybody thought that, well, there's a tax freeze, so nobody's going to be getting increases. And yes, rightfully so, the actual dollar that they're going to be paying isn't going to be increased. To Austin's point, when he put that literature out there, it says that this is not going to be assessed on your bill. However, the value has been increased. The calls that I'm getting is like 15% on average,
That's what mine was.
Yeah, mine.
an increase.
But on that,
So I'm getting a lot of calls.
yeah, I am too. We've got to direct them to the province.
So this is what, exactly, so can we, I mean, short of, I don't know, how do we publicize that? Get on the phone, call, do what you need to do, because it's out of our control, I don't have the bandwidth.
I mean, I'm with one of our MLAs tomorrow. Again, I did see another MLA in the province put out a statement. I thought they did a good job as far as articulating the situation on what it is. Now, the explanation on verbiage around freeze versus an assessment freeze to me
Yeah.
means it's an assessment freeze. Not you raise the assessment and then you keep frozen on what you tax, but regardless of, it's wordsmithing. But
It is
I do-
wordsmithing, and that's
I
exactly,
do think that we can ask for an explanation publicly from government. But whether we get that or not,
I think that they've done those, and if you look at those links, because I think one piece that when we can clarify is that, when we had Service New Brunswick here, you'll recall they use fair market value. So fair market value doesn't pause based on provincial taxing.
it was misleading, it's very misleading to our residents.
Yeah, I don't
And
disagree,
that's the
disagree with that
unfortunate
piece.
thing.
I don't disagree with that piece. I think that's our response to it though, is that fair market value doesn't and the other piece is that when the property tax bills come out, or when they come out next year and the year after, spike protection will still apply unless they could take it away, I guess, but, so every year, even though the assessment went up 15%, they will only pay 10%, a maximum of 10% more than this year, even though the assessment has gone up 15%.
But at some point, every time they're escalating that assessment value,
Mhm.
it will be taxed against at some point.
Correct, yeah.
So,
correct.
I mean, this is the thing with it being misleading. and very much so untruthful. Like everybody thought there was a freeze, so everybody's getting these bills and they've been increased by 12 to 15, some 20%. And so.
The assessment, not the bill.
The assessment, which will be a bill at some point.
But if you go back to it, again, I'm not.
But the bill was based on value
The
per
bill is based on
assessment.
the-
Yeah.
So, again, the province could say that their wording was very accurate, so it's hard because like everything, at the lowest level of government, we are the ones that get cost to the people daily, and we're the ones that.
So how do we escalate this up to the next level?
We've done that when they did the property assessment freezes, because that.
You and maybe he's doing it.
Yeah, because that's been like, as soon as this was announced in May, all municipalities kind of put their arms up and say, whoa, this is not a.
What's happening is
fair
exactly,
process.
what's happening is exactly what we said was going to happen, unfortunately. And as well, and this gets back into from an advocacy perspective, and hopefully we see everybody back here around the table. But it's again, from an advocacy perspective, again, because of the way communities are funded, we shouldn't have to rely on our tax rate going against what assessed values are of homes. So at the end of the day, the province has to come forward with a plan that equally distributes funding to communities that's not tied solely on assessed values of homes. And that's like, so if they were to correct that, this wouldn't be as big an issue, because we should not be receiving the majority of our funding based on the value of everybody's homes.
Well, the unfortunate thing is that we sit around this table and we talk about how many times does somebody say, how much more would the residents be willing to pay in taxes to have this for a service? Well, when you're compiling these numbers, doesn't make sense anymore. We're talking about it's a quarter of a cent. Well, but if they're increasing at 15% every year, the value, it's not just a quarter of a cent anymore.
That's why you have to decouple home assessments to our tax rate. They need to be decoupled. There needs to be a blended model like in other provinces where whether it be a portion of HST or whatever that works.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not solely reliant on that. And that's what we as a council, I would say every council in this province has been advocating for. It's not a fair, equitable. What it essentially does is it puts the blame on us.
Yes.
Constantly, when it shouldn't be that way. And-
Exactly.
So we'll continue to advocate for that. The province has indicated that they are bringing forward.
I just looked at the timeline and they haven't announced, but it's this year that they're supposed to, that they're undertaking a review of the property tax system. So, they haven't really hinted much at what that
So
will be.
in reality, we're probably a few years away before something's gonna come in. I have.
Well, they made this legislation in
I
May,
know, but anyway.
to affect us this year. Joey has his hand raised, but the only other thing that I wanna mention on what can we respond is that residents only have a certain time frame if they want to appeal their assessment.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is
In
it.
February. It's in February, so it's a 30-day, I think it would be, I guess, if it's, and, so we get a list at the, like, kind of summertime, and when we present the numbers from Service New Brunswick, the majority of appeals stay the same. Every now and then, though, they do reduce some, but a lot of them are withdrawn or stay the same by the time they through, yeah.
Councillor,
I would just like to point out that this is also an opportunity to lower taxes, even though that assessment has gone up, that you can reduce the tax burden on residents. But having said that, there's also, to me, an opening for the province to say that you had the funding and you've decided to give it back as a tax break, and that is an excuse to not have to deal with these property tax assessments to begin with, or redoing the funding model.
We'll still hear about them. Yeah, I think the argument though is less on that and more so from an advocacy perspective that municipalities are reliant on their funding from homeowners. And that municipalities need that funding to operate. It's just that it's not fair that it goes in the backs of homeowners specifically. Because if we just do that and just lower taxes, well then homeowners lose out on services, right? That municipalities have a finite budget to offer. The other piece that was in the news a couple weeks ago is that about half of municipalities increased their rates this year because of the assessment freeze. So we maintained ours, but council will recall some of the conversations that were had to make that happen. About half of them increased it because it's not predictable. And there were that long-term financial figures that municipalities, including us, had would be stable, but that isn't the case with an assessment freeze. So a lot are not as fortunate as us to have, like, our number match the provincial growth in terms of new construction. Many did not get that. So that's the other piece that's of significance too.
But to that point, that's why it is so important to continue to grow, so
Correct.
that revenue is available
Well,
in the future.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, if we don't continue to drive growth, we'll be in the exact same shoes as with the other municipalities. Additional points from council?
No.
Okay. With that, do I have a motion?
Some of, so slow.
We only need one.
I don't even know who it was.
That would be
Wasn't the, sorry.
with Council Fuller.
I would love.
I don't even care, I just want to be you.
And all in favor? Like reminded,
Aye.
we adjourn.